Kevin Mulroy and Bianca Guimaraes are co-executive creative directors at Mischief at No Fixed Address. Both are incredibly talented and well accomplished in their careers, showing no signs of letting up. Bianca is from Sao Paulo, Brazil, where she embarked on her advertising journey and decided to chase a career that shifts culture and perceptions with her insanely creative art direction. I remember writing an essay on her commercial for Sandy Hook Promise titled Back to School Essentials back in college. What was a seemingly innocent back to school ad turned south to make a powerful statement to prevent gun violence. Her work has been nominated for multiple Emmys and has won more than 100 awards internationally. In addition, Bianca has been named one of Business Insider's 30 most creative people in advertising under 30, Adweek's Creative 100, and most recently Ad Age's 40 under 40 list. Now, Kevin Mulroy is from the northern suburbs of Chicago, and he currently lives in New Jersey. He breaks down his advertising journey as one that took some time to launch, but launch it did. Kevin has been recognized at the highest level by Cannes, The One Show, DNAD, Webbies, and more. His range in work is awe-inspiring, from important messaging on the threat of our democracy in the United States to the fun messaging of send nudes for craft. I asked this creative duo what they looked for when hiring all the creatives at Mischief. They hired Hatem, who was on a previous episode, which was fun. I asked them about Mischief, what goes into a thriving creative partnership, their biggest mistakes, their best ads, and of course, advice for you. I thought it was phenomenal personally, so take it for what it is. Fun fact, Kevin actually graduated from Chicago Portfolio School back in the day, and he's doing pretty damn well. Chicago Portfolio School supports this episode, and going there can help your chances of breaking into the ad world. Visit them at chicagoportfolio.com. Tell them B&E sent you. Bianca and Kevin also wrote some resources that they recommend for you. Find those on our Instagram at enteringad. One more time, that's at enteringad. This is going to be a great show, so let's get on with it. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Bianca and Kevin, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. This might be a Hall of Fame episode. I'm a little nervous. I'm super excited, but thank you both so much for coming on.
Thanks, Gino. It's a big intro. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we better live up to that now.
Yeah.
No, I'm pumped. I usually don't have two guests on at once, but I've done it before. We'll see how it goes. I'll direct questions to one of you at a time, but feel free to jump in wherever you want. But this is going to be fun. You both are ECDs at Mischief at No Fixed Address. I've had on one previous guest, Hatem, who's at Mischief. Do you guys know Hatem?
Of course. Yes, we hired Hatem.
Yeah.
Amazing. He is so lively on LinkedIn. Like, if you want to get a job, the whole show, all I can say is follow him on LinkedIn and you'll get a job because he posts all the time.
Yes.
He's lively all the time, not just on LinkedIn.
Sure. I wonder what that's like, but he has a good episode, so check that out as well. But we're here to talk about you both. You both are ECDs at Mischief. How long have you both been there?
Since the beginning, pretty much. So it's been a year and a couple months, or a few months. I'm losing track of time. It feels like 10 years in a good way.
Yeah.
I think it was July of 2020, right?
Yeah.
I think that's when we started.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. So it's a new agency, kind of started off small. Is it still small? Tell me about Mischief, what it's like there. Give me the rundown and our audience.
I'll start and then you jump in, B.
Yep.
I can give you the quick background is Mischief was born basically in 2020. We were Bianca, Greg, and I were all working at BBDO New York. We had been there for I want to say 6 years or something like that. Greg was the chief creative officer of the U.S. and due to pandemic cuts. He was let go, which was a shock to everybody. And so when he landed, he sort of explored every option as to where to go to next. And he kept coming back to this place, No Fixed Address, which was a model that was really set up for the pandemic, but they had been in business for 5 years prior to it. And it was just a very flexible model. And he said, I think they had a lot of talks. They said, why don't you start an agency? And he said, I am not a businessman. I don't know how to do that. I'm a creative person. And they said, well, what if we, did that part for you and kind of got you up and running, and it will be your vision and your shop. And then, it started there. So that was the start of it. Basically, it was Greg's shop, partnering with No Fixed Address, which is, an agency in Toronto. And then they reached out to us and asked if we'd like to come aboard and work for our old boss, Greg. And it was not a very difficult decision for us, even though it was a really weird time. The prospect of starting something new with somebody that we trusted as much as we did Greg, and sort of the excitement of doing something entrepreneurial was very different and very exciting for us. So we jumped at it.
What was the timeline? So Greg got laid off, and then he started looking at No Fixed Address, and you guys were there. You both were at BBDO in New York. How long were you guys waiting for him to start Mischief, or when did that play out?
Everything was very quick. I think we started like officially like a month after, Mischief started.
Okay.
Because we're giving some time to BBDO. Obviously, it's a place that we had a lot of heart for, and we love the people there still. But again, as Kevin said, the chance of doing something more entrepreneurial, and we would learn so much in this new, this new venture or adventure.
I mean, yeah, that's a scary time. I mean, in general, like with the world, and also just transition is also pretty scary. So that's a pretty big leap for you guys, and it worked out pretty well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, everything was a little scary. Nothing was guaranteed at all. And we felt like, if nothing else, what we can do is the work. And I had a friend who told me once, there's no such thing as job security. The only job security is being good at your job. And so it was really just, we knew we could do the work. We knew that we worked really well with Greg. We trusted Greg, as I said. And it felt like, at the very least, one of the great things about having No Fixed Address back us was basically that we felt we could at least work on Canadian projects at the beginning, just sort of like get up and running. And we thought we'd be doing that for a few months before we started getting clients. It just didn't turn out that way. There was immediate interest, and doing some work that got attention drew more interest from more clients, and it just sort of snowballed from there. And it has not stopped. It's been great. Like, it's the best part about it is that our work has been our calling card and our biggest driver of new business, which is exactly what you hope for when you start something like this.
Yeah. How many people are at Mischief right now?
I think we have on the creative team, we have 10 or 11 teams, and a designer. And so I think in general, we might be like, Kev, like 40 people?
40, I think, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah. But like we work, like Kevin was talking about the No Fixed Address. Obviously they are like, they're an agency who's in Canada. They have like 2 or 3 different offices there. And then they have like one in the States as well, like, which is NFA USA. But we kind of call ourselves like the grid. And that's like, when we talk about like how many people we are like, 40 people at Mischief. But, the grid is like, 200 plus people. And that's where we can like, grow up or down, or like scale up as much as we need to whenever we have different clients with different, necessities. So they have like amazing strategists and designers and like a studio. And so all of those things that, at a place that's just starting, you don't want to have all of that overhead and you don't want to like also just, you know, freelance a bunch of people from the start. So it's been really, really good and healthy, and we've developed a really good relationship and ways of working with that team.
Yeah. You guys are very nimble, super creative. I mean, you've been all over the news, it seems like, and for good reasons. Your work is incredible. Tell me about like your roles and where you fit in everything and how your responsibilities look. What do they look like?
It's a little bit of everything, especially in the beginning. We were kind of doing a little of everything. You know, in title, we're executive creative directors. When we first started, it was 5 of us or 6 of us, and we were doing all the work. We were in all the meetings, doing all the pitching, doing all the production, and it was nuts. It was really, really crazy. But then, you know, it's evolved a little bit. We've been able to start hiring teams. We were stubborn about it, and we were slow to hire because we were trying to be very careful and picky about who we hired, especially because we were so small. But we feel like we're kind of stacked with talent right now. We're really excited about the teams we have and our roles of. We're still involved day to day with everything. All the work goes through us, but we have teams that we trust that can run projects and can run productions, and so we don't have to be in every single meeting all the time.
Right. What'd you look for? Like you said that you were a little careful and at first to hire people. So what were some of those key things you were looking for when you're hiring creatives?
Yeah, it's hard because when you are small, you want to like you cannot miss like hiring a team that's like that doesn't deliver. So we were just like extra careful because of that, and also there are teams or people in general that are better at one specific thing rather than, you know, being able to deliver everything. So there are teams that are more like, oh, they're really good at comedy, they don't really like doing other stuff, or they're really good like stunt brand act kind of like, you know, teams or teams that are more traditional and only do TV. So we needed to look for people that could do a little bit of everything because at, you know, at that point we were and still at this point we're just getting requests, and we were getting clients and requests to do all kinds of work, and we want also to be that shop. We want to be the agency that delivers smart ideas that people cannot ignore across, like, you know, different genres, different mediums, and all of that. We don't want to be known for a specific kind of work. So that's kind of like the teams that we were looking for were teams that would be able to do that. And obviously, you know, just talented people, hardworking people, nice people, because it's very important for us to not be working with, you know, with people with big egos or any of that. So those were a few important things that we looked for.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I think before I got to BBDO, Greg was the most versatile creative I'd ever worked for or with. His range of work was pretty nuts. You know, it was pretty impressive that he the range of tone in his work. The one constant is that it was always smart and unexpected. And so we're looking for all of those things. We all pride ourselves on having range, being able to, as Bianca said, tackle any project that comes through and deliver the best version of that solution. But yeah, having ideas in a book that are unexpected, you're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of it that way. And then, of course, just down to the basics, can this person write? Can this person art direct? That's also important too. Like, we want to make sure that the people we're bringing on board can not only come up with ideas, but execute them as well as we need them to be executed.
Yeah, the fundamentals. I love it. So what are your favorite parts about working at Mischief, and then maybe some of your least favorite parts?
I have a good favorite part. Sorry, Gavin, were you going to say something?
No, go.
I think a lot of agencies come, you know, look at the work, or, you know, look at the way to approach work or meetings with clients from a place of fear, from a place of like, we need to make sure we don't lose that client. We need to make sure we don't say the wrong thing. We need to make sure that they're happy. What, you know, and I just feel like at Mischief, like, that's not what we do. It's not like we don't, we basically are not afraid, and that's not like we're just basically like partnering with our client and being transparent, and everybody's like on the same with the same objective of moving their business and creating work that like produces good results and moves people in general. And so we do things differently in that sense, and I feel that's very refreshing, just being able to not come from a place of fear and encourage people to be themselves is very refreshing.
Yeah, and I think, to use a pretty tired sports reference, apologies for this, but playing to win instead of playing not to lose is a big difference maker. I mean, as anyone who's a football fan, it's like you see the prevent defense and you're like, what are you doing? What is happening right now? And it's just like it feels like it's always a recipe for disaster. So it's fun to be to really be going for it. Because we want to do great work, but also because it's like it's, as I said before, it's our biggest driver of new business. It's our kind of our calling card. We're building this thing, and so we have to be swinging. We have to really be going for it on every project and trying to deliver something that is really unexpected, and that, as Bianca said, we can show demonstrably, has business results. That's a big part of how we position ourselves and pitch ourselves, because it's important to us.
Absolutely. Any least
Just
favorite
real
parts?
quick, sorry for interrupting.
Okay.
If we need to go a little over, I just realized like one of our meetings got canceled, so I just wanted to give that heads up.
Oh, thank you. Cool. Okay, then what's something that you wish you could improve about the agency?
Oh God, resourcing meetings. I'm so tired of resourcing.
Yeah,
They're the worst. I
What
mean,
goes in
like, we're very busy, and it's always sort of like it's just always a puzzle to figure out who's going to work on what and when, and making sure that we're not burning people out. And it's, obviously we were very careful to hire all of our teams, and we really want to take care of them and make sure that everybody's happy and everyone's producing and no one's, I mean, I would say almost all the projects we get, almost all the assignments are great. It's just that nobody wants to work on like back-to-back pitches, for example.
Yeah.
We just have to make sure that, it's just like not something that I've dealt with before.
Yeah. I think another one is like some like needing to know when to say no to things and what to focus on and not grow too fast, because we get a lot of like different opportunities, and we just need to be careful with what is the right opportunity, what makes sense for us to spend our energy in, and do all those meetings where like we're just evaluating what's coming in, what's on the table, and like what we need to do to make sure that we're staying true to the brand that we're building, and to make sure that that we keep things that way and we don't grow too fast. That's another, I wouldn't say like it's just like another point that we all need to pay attention and talk about a lot.
The flip side of that, though, is that we are at a stage, we're small enough right now, but we're having enough success that we are able to say no to things, which is great. Not every place can do that or wants to do that. But we've had, pitch meetings that don't feel right, and we're getting kind of lousy feedback, and the people maybe seem like kind of dicks, and we don't, like, we're able to say, this doesn't feel right for us, so let's not do it.
And I think that was from the beginning, honestly. Like, it was just like every opportunity, because I don't think it's good for us or the client. Like, by saying no, we're just doing everybody a favor if it's not the right thing. And there are sometimes like awesome clients and brands, but they're like the kind of work that they want is not necessarily the kind of work that that we do or that we're the best at. And so we think it's not smart for them to like, go with us in that case. So we're transparent about that.
Really important. Yeah. You also have to kind of think about that, like I was thinking from a student perspective, that same philosophy applies for when you're applying for jobs. Like, you can say no to jobs, or like an agency that you're interviewing with that doesn't feel right. You can always step away too from the student perspective.
And on top of that, the other thing about that is I think a lot of the time it's easy to get lured in by the name on the door, but you have to find out who you're going to be working for and what you're going to be working on.
Yep.
Because it makes all the difference. Even at great, hot creative shops, you could be working on, you could be working on something that never produces, or a CD that just doesn't have your best interest in mind. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's an important thing.
There's a lot of shifting too. It's hard to keep up with all, who's moving around when, because it's a shifty industry. People move around, so you got to keep up with it, and you got to see where you're going to be best fit. But what was the last ad you both made together?
Oh, what did we just produce?
I know. I'm like, there's like five. What we just put out the door? Oh, Netflix.
Yeah,
that was the last thing we did. That we just put out. It was a promotion for the show Lucifer. So Lucifer is on its last season. It's coming up. And to promote that, we just launched this campaign called Cash In on Sin, and basically was these like cards, like a debit card, like a credit debit card, so that kind of card, where we reward fans for sinning. So the more they sin, the more they get rewarded. So fans would just kind of like based on like the different seven sins, the 7 deadly sins. They would get different things with this card. So, if it's like gluttony, they would get like a bunch of, money to spend on something like Uber Eats, so different brands.
Yes.
It was actually Hitam's idea. And I think he wins the award for the battle of attrition. It was a very long and very painful process to get it sold, but it finally went, and we're really happy for him.
Yeah, and that's everywhere. I've seen that on Ad Age, Ad Week, Twitter, the Twitterverse. So good job. That's awesome.
Yeah, Hatam and our creative director Hunter, they worked together on it, and they both shaped the campaign and did everything. They turned out really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so happy. That's awesome. He's such a great guy. So I'm glad he's found some success. Mm-hmm. Tell me about an ad or a campaign that you're most proud of that you've worked on together or individually. Bianca, let's start with you.
That's a hard question. I think there are a few things I'm proud of, like that we've done at Mischief, and then a couple things from prior to Mischief. Mm-hmm. I would say something that we did at Mischief for Represent Us was this film called Dictators, and it was this campaign called The Dictators, and where we had Kim Jong-un and Putin. We did deepfakes of them talking about how our democracy is fragile, and if you don't do anything, that was like for when the elections were happening right before. If you don't do anything, if you don't go vote, if you don't go work the polls, things can very quickly fall apart. And it was just by giving the message through their voices and through those people, we just hoped to make people understand that we're not that far from the opposite of a democracy. And that was a fun campaign to work on. It was very successful. It drove all the results that the client was expecting. So that came to mind for me.
Who was the client on that?
Represent Us. They're like they're a part of the nonprofit that basically works for all things, like fights corruption on all things like politics and all of that.
I think the thing about that one in particular that we were proud of is as Bianca said, it's a nonpartisan organization, and they asked us to talk about corruption in the election during the 2020 election, which was impossible to be nonpartisan. I mean, anything you said could be construed, either left or right. And to talk about corruption in politics, it just felt like you were automatically taking sort of like a lefty stance. Mm-hmm. And so that was the challenge for us. And I think that project got a little overshadowed by the fact that we used deep fake technology for it. But the real insight was what we were proud of. It was taking a step back from American politics and looking at it from more of a global perspective, and saying, who sort of has a vested interest in democracy collapsing, and that led us to these dictatorial leaders, and with a little bit of a twist on it, where they usually we sort of look outward and blame others for trying to attack democracy, but the twist on it obviously was they were saying, we don't have to do anything, you're doing it to yourselves. So that was really the insight and the idea behind it. And then we used deepfake because it was the most provocative way to tell that story. And yeah, so it was successful. It was good.
Yeah.
The part about the deepfake, there was so much conversation about deepfake and like is it something ethical to do and to use that, and we made sure to make a disclaimer and to put this video isn't real, but the threat to democracy is. So like
nice.
We disclaimed that throughout all of the pieces of communication that we put out, and like so we weren't never trying to like make people think that it was real. It was just like a message. So that part got some, but there was some debate about deepfakes in general.
Sure, it was provocative, I think, but it stirred up a lot of tension, and it was for a good cause, a good reason. I mean, you guys are no strangers to being provocative, like the Send Nudes campaign with Kraft.
Mm-hmm.
That one was hilarious, and I remember that when that one came out. But also like the back to school essentials was one that I had to write about. I wrote about it in college. I remember being like so struck by that piece of work. Bianca, did you work on that one?
Yeah. I used to run the Sandy Hook Promise account along with another creative at BBDO, and that's another one like that came to mind, and that client and that whole cause is something very close to me, and something that I get very passionate about, and working on it more and more through the years at BBDO, like that became something that I took very seriously. And then after having a kid, I'm like, oh my God, this needs to change before my kid goes to school. This is like crazy. So that was a very special campaign, and I was so very happy to see the amount of people that saw it beyond the advertising industry, and like how it touched people in different ways, to hopefully prevent some of that stuff, because that's all the message of that campaign, and the message that we try to give with that nonprofit organization is that school shootings are not disasters that you cannot avoid. They're something that can be preventable.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of getting schools to be teaching kids how to like survive them, they should be teaching kids how to prevent them. And that was the whole message.
Yeah, very well done.
Thank you.
So you both found a lot of success. Mischief sounds like a fantastic agency. But let's kick it back to like how you guys got started in this. And starting with you, Bianca, you're from Brazil, right? Sao Paulo. Yes. How did you get started? Like, where did you hear about advertising? Tell us about your advertising break-in.
Yeah. It was to me, it was a process of elimination when it came to me, like trying to figure out what I wanted to do, for a living. I feel like you're so young when you have to make that decision. I had no idea. I honestly knew what I did not want to do. And then it was like, what was left? It was like, okay, cinema, advertising, fashion. I remember there was like some other, like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what, but it was like, I kind of was more, I thought maybe like if something related to communication was, something that attracted me more. But honestly, when I went to school for advertising, like when I went to university, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, what it was, it just sounded kind of fun. And so I did 4 years of college, where that's kind of how it works in Brazil. It's a little different than in the States, I guess. But at the time there was no like portfolio school or anything like that. So, or it wasn't as big. So I basically, in my 4 years of university, it was like communication in general. And I learned things from like planning to media to there was like philosophy classes, and there was the more creative classes. Like we had classes that were more design related, and then classes that were more about like concepting. But it was like one class during like of like maybe 2 hours a week kind of thing. So it wasn't focused on that. But that was what I started kind of seeing myself thriving on and really being interested on. So I started staying after school to learn more like of the like Photoshop, like the design skills. That was something that I that I liked to know more of. So I ended up doing this like course on the side to go deeper into that in like a school of art and design that's great in São Paulo. And with that, it was, again, I didn't even have to intern during my years at university. It wasn't something that the university demanded. So it was just like, I was like, oh, I guess I should intern somewhere and try to, see how it is, the life in an agency. And I had a friend at the time who worked at an agency, and I was like, do you think I can just show up and interview there, and they could get me a desk and I can help? And it worked out. Then they gave me a desk, and I think they did it as like more of a favor than I was helping them. But with time, I kind of like was learning, and then from there, one person that moved to another agency that used to work there brought me with them, and I just I graduated, became full-time at that bigger agency, and I moved to the States 11 years ago, where I started first at JWT for 4.5 years, then BBDO for about 6 something years, and now I'm at Mischief. So
yeah. So rewind it real quick, because I want to go over, you showed up, like you just said, can I show up to this agency interview? What happened there? Like what was that break-in?
It was a very big, it was a very small agency. It was like probably like 6 people, something like that.
Okay.
Or I don't know, maybe like 10 people. Okay.
And what role were you going for there?
I knew I liked the art direction side of it. I knew it, like, through like the classes and stuff, I started liking that part of things more. So I asked for like to be like an art director intern. And I had some like bad photoshopped like ads, like conceptual like ads from school that I show them, but it was nothing close to being like the portfolio that we ask, people these days to have to like get a job. And I think it was like, can I look for images here? Like, can I sit here in the corner and do whatever you need me to do to just be here and learn? And I don't know why they said yes. I honestly, like, if it was me, I would have said no, because I had nothing. Like, I really don't know. I think it was maybe because of, the friend that I said that worked there was my boyfriend at the time. And so maybe it was like a favor to him. And he was like, okay, sure, why not? Let her, this girl stay here. So, but yeah, I did not qualify for an internship at that point.
Okay. And then you kind of slowly built your book along the way. Your portfolio started developing, and then you went to the United States. Did you have like that portfolio piece, or did you know somebody? What was like your break into that larger agency experience?
Yeah. So at that point, with that smaller agency, one of the finance guys left to go to a bigger agency in São Paulo. And then that bigger agency was looking for someone, and the finance guy told them, hey, you should hire that art director who's interning at that small agency, which is called WG. Then this bigger agency, they brought me in. And at that point, I had a better portfolio from the small agency, but not great at all. But they gave me a chance. And then I worked there for about a year and a half. And that's when I decided that I wanted to have an experience abroad. And I had the plan to just move to the States, get like some sort of visa, student visa. So like do some course that I could do here just to get, myself physically here, and then go around and try to look for a job. But not like that didn't happen. I ran into a friend who said, oh, you're going to New York. My stepdad lives there and he works at JWT there. And I was like, oh, let me talk to him. It turns out he was the CFO of JWT at the time. So that helped with, again, getting me to at least have like a quick experience there. That was, was supposed to like last only a couple months. But as I worked there for those 2 months, when it was over, they were like, oh no, we want you to stay, and we're going to sponsor you and get you a visa. And that's kind of how I stayed. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, because like anytime you have an internship or you're freelancing like that, it is an interview, right? Like they're looking, you're there for a reason. There's potential that you'll get hired full time, so take it seriously.
Yeah,
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, how about you? You're from the Chicagoland area, where I am right now. What was your introduction to advertising and how you broke into your first agency?
I graduated college, and I was drinking all my parents' beer in their basement, and they were like, please get out of the house and get a job. And my dad was sick of me drinking all of his beer. And that's true, by the way. And I can't drink Heineken anymore because I drank so much Heineken. But anyway, I I knew of advertising. I didn't know at all how to do it. I didn't know you needed a portfolio. So I just got the first entry-level job I could, which was in the media department of an agency back when agencies had media departments. And I absolutely sucked at my job. I hated every second of it because it's all like flow charts and Excel. I don't even know if it was Excel spreadsheet at the time, but it was like numbers and data. And I was like, it was terrible. But, and then that agency kind of collapsed. It was like a satellite shop for for Ammirati Puris Lintas in New York. And I was kind of disenchanted with advertising in general, and I flailed around with a bunch of sort of. Did I freeze up? Oh,
No.
cool. I was just boring you to death, so you were frozen. I kind of flailed around with a bunch of jobs that I also wasn't very good at. I took Second City classes in improv and writing, and I knew that I wanted to write. And then a friend told me about Chicago Portfolio School, and I applied there. I did a little over a year. Jeff let me hang around while I was still trying to get my portfolio made. And I had I don't know, 9 loose sheets of paper in like a Kinko's folder, and then they were awful. My ads were garbage, but I had one really great. I mean, I had a bunch of great teachers, but one in particular who kind of took a chance on me. He was like, I could tell that you can write, and you can know how to write a joke, and kind of and an internship popped up at an agency called Element 79 in Chicago, which also folded. I swear it wasn't my fault, or maybe it was. And so he got me an internship there. And then after the first couple months, I got a shot at a Tropicana brief. They had not been able to sell anything to the client, and they were like, sure, throw the interns on it. And we came up with an idea that sold, and
Nice.
and that got me my first job. They said, okay, come on board. It took a little while, actually. I think they wanted to still pay me $10 an hour as long as they could, until I complained about it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that was exciting. I got to do my first TV shoot, like 3 months in. It was cool and scary, but fun.
So you got into media. You said that wasn't for you. Then you took classes. You did improv classes. You had Second City. You did portfolio school, and then you got in. So you had to bounce back. You didn't give up though. Like you didn't go into like consulting or.
No, I didn't. I mean, I knew one thing, which is if the only way I felt comfortable in a corporate environment is if I was doing something creative within a corporate environment. I was always sort of I liked to draw when I was a kid, and I liked art, and I liked comic books. And I don't know. I never really felt like, it felt like that was sort of like a compromise for me. And then for a while, I really thought I got kind of obsessed with writing screenplays and TV shows and stuff like that. And I obsessively did that for maybe like 6 years, thinking that I would move out to LA and be a famous screenwriter. That didn't happen. But no, it felt like as soon as I got the job at Element 79, my first real job in advertising in the creative department, I was like, this feels like home. This is exactly where I feel like I belong.
Nice. Amazing. So that was your break in, both of yours. Love
I
it.
just have to say that I'm very glad that didn't happen. That's all.
I appreciate that.
We need you.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say, like you've obviously learned a lot, both of you, along the way, and now that you're a Mischief, but what were some of the biggest mistakes you've made along the way?
I don't make mistakes.
I never asked this question. I never asked this question.
Yeah.
So
a million, yes. I once put a creative director on blast, and I almost got fired for it.
Really?
Because I was really mad that we had put a scratch track on a spot that we were selling to the client. And then in the meantime, we had briefed 3 music houses, and we hadn't gotten any of the music back from them. And I was excited to hear it. And then I heard that the client bought the scratch track, and I was weirdly mad about that. And I like wrote this long angry email and copied my CD on it. And he was very, very mad at me.
Okay.
He sent me back a very long email back and put everybody else on blast and then tried to get me fired. And luckily I didn't get fired. I think because I made like $10 an hour. They're like, we'll keep this guy around.
Yeah, that always helps when you're only $10 an hour. Yeah.
What's your one thing that you did wrong in your entire career?
I mean, so many things. Yeah, exactly. The one thing. One small thing, like very dumb, funny. I used to go, my first job, I used to go to my creative director every day. And I would be like, I'm done with my work. Can I leave or I'm going home? And like the 5th day that I did that, he was like, you don't have to come here and tell me that you're leaving. Whenever you're done, just leave. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Sure.
That's good. That's good advice.
So,
I did that in my first internship for like the first week too. So
yeah, yes. That was really weird. I remember also like, I mean, this was just like it didn't go horribly because someone stopped me, but I remember at BBDO the first year that I was there, we had this idea and we like sold it, we produced it, and then someone said something like, oh, the team doesn't believe that we should like PR this or push this, or something like that. And I got so mad right away and I was like, okay. And I grabbed my computer and I went to Lubar's office and like I talked to his assistant and I was like, can I talk to Lub? Like I had just arrived. It wasn't even like, it was like 2 months in or something. I was like, can I talk to David? And she's like, yeah, what is this about? Like, what do you need? Do you have time scheduled? And I was like, no, I just need to talk to him about something. And she was like, yeah, okay. Like, obviously, like, she's like, he's busy now. And, have you talked to this and this person before? And my plan was just to go there and be like, hey, just want to understand better what this place is about and what kind of ideas you have. Cause we have this and no one wants to PR. And it would have just been so dumb and like such a like, stupid thing to do in the moment. So it didn't go bad because I didn't make it to him. But yeah, that was one that you should not do.
Love it. Good lessons. Let's bring it back to like today now. So how did your professional like paths cross and where was this at?
Well, Bianca was an intern when I was at JWT before she leapfrogged everyone in the industry and took over advertising.
No.
Wow.
No, that's not true. That's not true. But yes, we did meet at JWT when during that period that I was there trying to, stay in the States. And Kevin was the cool guy. It was like I sat next to him and 3 other guys, and I was like just looking at them and trying to like be cool and be friends with them. So just, try to impress them with my bad jokes and bad timing, because at that time my English was even worse. So every time I tried to make a joke, no one would get it. So, but yeah, we started with each other there. We didn't work together, and then.
But we did go to lunch one time together, and we went to go to like a Middle Eastern place, and it was like, oh, this place has the best Middle Eastern food, and so we all ordered Middle Eastern food, and Bianca ordered like a shrimp burrito.
Yeah, no, that was so embarrassing. I was trying to be cool and hang out with them, and like I ordered the wrong thing, and I was like, they were like, and I think it was a sushi place, and they had burritos on the side. Yeah, and I got the burrito, and I was like so embarrassed. Probably because I was like so broke at the time.
I think we just made fun of you like one time, but I think you remembered it much longer than we did.
Yes, I know. When we saw each other at BBDO later on, when he was already there and I had just started, I think Kev was like basically permanent there before he went full time, and I had just gotten hired, and we saw each other, and I was like, oh, the guy that made fun of me for the burrito. So,
people don't forget.
Don't make fun of people, because then they remember.
Yeah, but then we each had our partners at BBDO, and both of them left around the same time. I moved to the West Coast. Kev's went to another agency, and then our ECD was like, oh, you guys should take on this project together. And I was like, sure. So we started working together, and that's kind of how we started.
How long ago was that?
Was it what? 6 years? Oh, 5 years ago.
Oh,
more than that, maybe.
Yeah.
And you've been working together ever since?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a long time. What makes for a strong creative partnership like that?
You have to like each other. That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And try to minimize annoying behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You respect each other's tastes and opinions. You also, I feel like I like working with people that I think are better than me, and I like learning from them. And I feel like Kevin pushes me that way. And I think that we're also like, we have the same sensibilities for stuff, or we have also the same sort of like, I don't know, we get annoyed by the same things, or we're able to, like, when one is annoyed, the other one is like, nah, don't worry about that. So we balance each other out. Like, we take turns, and I don't know.
I
what
would
else?
say that we definitely push each other, and I think that our skill sets are well matched. And and I think that Bianca has the most insane work ethic of anyone I've ever worked with, and that pushes me to really, it forces me, kicking and screaming, to work as hard as she does.
Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm always so jealous of like the copywriter. Is there one of you that's a copy or art director? Like, or you both
Yeah.
just do everything?
Kev is the copy, I'm the art director. But I mean, when you become like a CD that's like more leading, you have to be able to judge both things.
Yeah.
So in general, I try to like tell people that like always ask for like tips in the industry, especially the art directors. I'm like, try to present your ideas too. Try to like write some paragraphs whenever you can. Like, you need to be able to judge that stuff as well. And same for the writers, like, pay attention to the visuals, look at, like, have an opinion, no references and stuff. So but yeah, that's
I also think art directors should write more, because it's not, I think sometimes really good art directors will write without overthinking it, and it'll come out more conversational, and it'll be more appropriate for what we're doing. So I think more art directors should try to do it. I think often it's like, oh no, this is my lane and that's your lane, and people should do both. I can't I can't do InDesign to save my life, but I have an opinion on the design, or I have an opinion on the way something looks.
You bring references in. You like know like art and just like design in general, or typography or whatever. You can be, you can direct people to get to the right place as well.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, and you develop an eye for it when you get more experience. Okay, so knowing what you both know now in your life and your career, what advice do you have to the audience, the entry level, the aspiring advertisers out in the world?
Mine's always the same answer, and I'll say it first because you've heard this speak.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Be great at your craft first. We were just talking about how you should, as an art director, write, and as a writer, know design and visual language. But I think the first most important thing for me when we're looking for a junior is, can you write if you're a writer, and can you design if you're an art director? And the reason I say that is, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I think you can contribute immediately as a junior if you are good at your craft. If you can write lines, if you write headlines, if you can like give something a visual identity or give something a look as an art director, you can jump right in and help, which is great. And then I think you'll get better at coming up with ideas and concepts and platforms and all that stuff the longer you're at an agency. That I think that stuff is way easier to learn when you're just like thrown into it at an agency than it is when you're at school in sort of this little vacuum. So to me, it's if you're a writer, be a great writer, and if you're an art director, really, really, be great at design and the visuals.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mine just got spoiled because we just talked about like I usually, give my sort of tip for art directors specifically to be presenting their work and talking about the work and being able to articulate all of that. I didn't for a long time. I just always thought like that was the writer, job, and I feel like people one, like you get better when you do it, and you have to practice, and you need to be able to do it like further in, in your career. And then I also think that people look at you less if you don't, because like if you're talking, if there's only one people always communicating stuff, like you just kind of become the sort of the other person in the room that's not really making a difference. I do not think it should be by any means like a competition between your partner. That's the worst thing that you can ever do, is like be competing with your partner. But just sometimes like I feel like our directors get a little quieter, or don't do as much of the presenting or the talking, and I think that's important.
Love it.
I have one bonus answer, I think, to this question too, that I don't think it's talked about enough. I think one thing that it took me too long to learn this, I think Bianca is innately good with this, is creativity is almost half of creativity is resilience, especially in this industry. It's like the job is not to come up with 1 or 2 good ideas. The job is to come up with 10, 11, 12 after your other ideas are dead, or to continue solving problems with creativity while you're producing something. There's so much creative decision making, so many things. I'm sorry to inform your audience that's about to break in. So many things die. The best idea does not always win, but your job is to continually come up with good ideas. And even when things are dying, shit dies for really dumb reasons all the time. And it can be very frustrating. A huge part of this job is just being resilient and being consistent and just saying, all right, on to the next one. Let's just move on.
Very smart, very true. Pen and paper. Jeff always says start off with a pen and paper and write a bunch of ideas down. Just keep writing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good practice,
Keep
good
your butt in
habit.
keep your butt in the chair. Keep going.
Love it. Awesome. Well, this has been amazing, and I appreciate you both coming on so much. I was super nervous, but I thought it went pretty well, and I'm so grateful to have you both on. Both your work is so inspiring. I will link to your portfolios and how to reach out to you guys. But do you prefer a method like can our audience reach out to you, ask questions about breaking in or about Mischief or about your role specifically?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, our emails are Bianca and Kevin at MischiefUSA.com. I mean, not Bianca and Kevin. I mean, maybe we should have a joint email.
Yeah.
But right now it's just, Bianca at MischiefUSA.com and Kevin at MischiefUSA.com.
People can also always reach out on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah. LinkedIn too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's how I reached out to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
It works sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's all I got. This has been amazing, and thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you
Gino.
so much for
Appreciate it.
having us. Yes, it was great.
Did you hear anything on this episode about a job you'd like to have someday, soon, in advertising, strategy, design? The kind of job where you use your brain and your creativity? If you did, chances are a portfolio can really help you get that job. That's where Chicago Portfolio School comes in. They have programs and classes that help you show off your thinking and get you the job you want. So visit them at chicagoportfolio.com. And if you drop my name, Gino, into the chat box, they'll send you more info and a cool Sharpie. Or just some more info. You can decide that. Thanks. Thank you all for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's guest. Make sure you go and connect with them on LinkedIn. Tell them that Breaking and Entering sent you. Now, thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio technician, and Buchun Zhang, our creative director, as well as the student team from the Midnight Oil Agency at the University of Illinois. Can't do it without you all. Thank you very much. We will see you all next week with another amazing guest.